It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men.
You're clashing with the opening music.
No, we're harmonizing. You can't tell me that.
Shot's actually really dark because there's no sun out today.
Rip.
Well, good morning, everybody.
They ain't here.
Say good morning.
Did you tell them that we were starting
Say good
at
morning.
10? Good
Yes.
morning. Good morning. Sorry. Good
Also,
morning.
it's been scheduled on the YouTube channel for like at least 24 hours. So
Oh, for 10?
yeah.
Okay. This
And
is
then,
just
yeah.
this one time.
Yep.
Don't be mad.
Welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Now we're late today. I had a dentist appointment this morning, so that's why we're a little bit late. But we're doing today, and I assume we're doing tomorrow also.
Yeah.
And that'll be our last day for a little bit, and then we'll be coming back with a new season after that.
Loud.
Is it?
Nope.
Hi everybody. How are you guys doing? The year's almost over. That's pretty cool. It's the last day of 2020 officially.
Wow.
We
I
made
didn't
it.
even think about that. This is the last day of 2020?
Yeah.
I mean this the most, disrespectful way possible, but good fucking riddance! Get out of here!
You know what's
You were
weird to
not
me?
welcome!
2020 has been vaguely on everyone's mind forever because, I remember in 2012 people were in 8 years before 2020 comes around and everybody makes 2020 vision jokes on New Year's Day 2020 or whatever. Even Reddit was already talking about the year before it ever happened.
Hindsight.
And it's been a milestone year in the distance for a while. Then we hit it. It was terrible, and now it's the last day. We're almost done. What?
Hindsight.
God damn it! God damn it! Why did you do that? We almost made it out.
Can't.
How have I not heard that before?
Well, I think 2021 is gonna suck if that makes anyone else feel better.
Why is hindsight is 2020 not a campaign slogan for someone yet?
Because 2020 hasn't happened. It's
I
not
guess
over.
so.
It's gotta
Holy
be
crap,
for the
that's
next
so
one.
good. Why? I can't believe I haven't heard that until
Where's
just
Leslie
now.
Knope? She would do it. She would embrace it. Yeah, no, it can.
I wonder who's going to use that first in some official capacity. That's going to be used at some point.
You know how everyone thinks about it, but nobody talks about how they have at least one person that they would like. They wouldn't kill them, but if that person got hit by a bus, they wouldn't go to the funeral either.
Sure.
2020 is that person for me. If not, then you've never been a hateful, spiteful teenager, and I applaud you for not having ever felt that way about someone, but I have also never felt that way about someone. No, not me.
For people pointing out in the chat that 2020 ending does not mean all the problems go away, I'm well aware. It's just more of a psychological thing.
Let us have our victories.
You can be educated on the fact that hey, stuff's bad is still happening while still also just having the emotional catharsis of this sucker punch of a year just kind of drawing to a close.
Right.
It's the entire point of human days and years and all that stuff are more or less made up, but I've thought weirdly extensively about this. They play a valuable role, I think, because humans are just sort of we do very well with the idea of resets. I think it just helps our emotional and mental state to have the concept of okay, this is over and now we're starting again. And just the idea that okay, year's over, we're starting over. Everybody keep your expectations low and go in all quiet and maybe it won't notice us.
Yeah. No, you just gotta let people celebrate the small things sometimes. No, I think 2021's gonna be worse.
Okay, I'm sorry. I really I try to just not respond as much as I can to some of these things, but Petite trying on, you just said it wasn't a bad year. Are you trying to antagonize people? What is your intention behind some of the messages you leave in this thing? Because what the hell do you mean it wasn't a bad year? I mean, come on, dude. I'm if you had some good things happen, that's great. But are you trying to be inflammatory, or are you just that separated from everybody else?
I had a lot of conversations with this about some of my Christian friends back in 2016, because before 2020, 2016 was the bad year, but 2016 just had a lot of ups and downs. 2020 was just down. But 2016 was one of the first, like, just absolutely terrible years.
Rain Man Slim says, my country burned down, it sucked. I don't know where you're from, but I'm very sorry to hear about whatever happened.
There's a term called toxic positivity.
Oh, maybe, actually, I guess if he means literally burned down, it might be Australia. Because that did happen.
Oh, rip. Yeah, I don't think anyone's seen you go off like that before. That was a whole thing.
I'm sorry.
Toxic positivity is the idea that if you maintain positivity through even traumatic times, that you will belittle the problems other people have had by pretending that they didn't exist, and it's bad for other people.
I've not heard of this.
It's like the TikTok concept. You know how everyone on TikTok is like, I get up at 6 a.m. every day and then I eat 4 protein shakes. I have 3 crackers for lunch and then I go to bed at 6 p.m. and I do a full skincare routine for 2 hours. It's like, nobody lives like that. And
I've tried living like that. That takes up your whole day. You can't do anything else.
You have lived like that, actually.
Those are the only options.
There was an article that says 2020 was a good... Well...
I don't know what that means. I've been here. I've been watching.
It was by PragerU. No, 2020 sucked. For people that... no, I won't say that. How many people died this year? I think it's 300,000 people died of COVID. Something like that. I think that's enough. I think it's enough. Like, if worse things happen, too, that makes it worse. But I think just, like, the sheer amount of deaths due to a pandemic is, like, plenty. For just, like, let's just scrap the year.
I mean, it's totally fine saying it's a bad year. Like, again, like, good things kind of happened. Staying positive is like, a thing you can do. I mean, that's great to do. But, like, you know, don't not acknowledge the pain people went through.
Light says maybe he's from the U.S., which also burned down throughout the year.
It's true. I
don't know if you mean literally
Australia
or
California. Which one?
Also,
well,
like, actually, the
I think a lot of Africa also had wildfires, and they just weren't televised quite as much.
Yeah. It was really fun. So a bunch of restaurants in Austin were like, hey, we're going to start having a curfew because people are getting really sick all the time, and our numbers have gone up from 4 to 563, and I'm not even joking. And so they were like, we're going to do a curfew. And our governor was like, no, I will send you to court if you try to keep people out of your restaurants after 10:30 p.m. The curfew is from 10:30 to 6 a.m. is when people aren't allowed in the restaurants.
That's...
Leave them alone!
Yeah.
Let them close!
Isn't that just normal closing time? I mean, restaurants aren't open most of the time during those times anyway.
Most like, chain restaurants don't close till, like, 11 p.m. So...
yeah, alright, well...
I don't know, it just sort of depends.
Early.
I think bars can also do it, so, like, yeah, our governor was like, absolutely not. No. Because he's just a really cool dude.
2021 fires burned down Antarctica.
Yeah, no, everything about this year sucked. If you had a good year, cool. Keep it to yourself. It's not making people who lost their family members feel better, or us who haven't been able to leave our house because we don't want to murder people.
It's just not related. Like, it's fine if you had a good year, but like when everybody around you says 2020 sucked, you know what they're talking about. So like, you don't need to come in and be like, no, 2020 was great. It's like, okay, like whatever happened in your life is like good for you and stuff, but like, why do you? I don't know.
Could you imagine if someone was like, hey, my husband died this year, and you were like, oh my god, I got married though. Crazy. It's almost like your trauma didn't happen. I had such a good experience, so sorry about, your thing, but who cares?
I'm not trying to like beat up on Petite trying on just for the I'm just pointing out like this is what people hear if you like throw out like, I had a really great year this year. It's like, that's fantastic, but also we were talking about the fact that like, hundreds of thousands of people died, because that also still happened.
A lot of really terrible things happened this year. Well, and you know what? I've also learned a lot about COVID. Like, we live with someone who's in the medical environment, I guess is how I'll put that. And we know a lot about COVID. And from what I can tell, we know a lot more than what people know. Like, they couldn't possibly know what we actually know about COVID because they aren't literally surrounded by
Well, you and I
after
definitely
effects
hear
of
it much more
COVID.
often and much earlier.
No. I talk to people. They just don't understand how it transmits, how it works,
I guess
what
that
it
makes
does
sense.
after, like the
Like, if I-
long-term effects. Like, we know all about how it affects people's bodies and what kills them because that's exactly what my mom does in studies. And so we're really
Yeah.
deep in the effects of COVID and also the spread of it. And when I talk to people who are still being as careful as possible, they don't understand exactly how dangerous and how it functions entirely. Like, even people who are being really careful, I've still talked to it, and like, just their understanding of COVID is so drastically different than what actual nurses, doctors, medical
Yeah.
professionals understandings of it are.
No, I think that's true.
It's
Like, if I
really
weren't
different.
married to you and living with your mom, I probably would not know anything
Well, I know,
nearly as much
and
as
I know
I
you
know.
would try to be careful. Like, people who don't
Yeah.
have that information still try
At
to be
least
careful.
like
but
my
they're just-
parents are still being very careful and they don't know all that information, but they're doing it
Right.
out of a lot of assumptions. I guess they don't know things, and that's why
Right.
they're being careful.
Yeah.
Somebody said Door Monster sketches started again this year. That was a good thing. That's very
true.
nice. Thank you for saying. Thank
That
you.
is a good thing.
Thank you for considering that. That's
A lot of people have
worth.
things to say about the fires. I think the fires were a really big part of.
They really were.
We live in
just,
Texas,
like, we didn't
so-
get touched by them, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, they were kind of a big deal.
Yeah, no. Oh, that's a kind comment.
Which one?
Xavier.
I was looking for an X. I look
Oh.
forward to more of you guys in the coming year. I'm proud to finally be able to support the excellent work you do. Thanks for all the laughter and joy you put out into the world. Thank you so much. That's
That's
very
so
nice.
kind. I probably put out laughter, but the joy I release is very little. It's not me. It's mostly Ian. If you're getting joy, it's from Ian.
Ricky says sci-fi is sending off the Sci-Fi Channel is sending off 2020 by playing every apocalypse movie.
What is the Sci-Fi Channel?
It's a cable package channel. It's called the Sci-Fi Channel. It's like
Sci-Fi. Okay.
there's like Sci-Fi Channel original movies, which are like those really cheesy, like low budget science fiction movies that you see sometimes.
Grace asked, what sort of things do people tend to not know? Well, I think, for example, a good example was like people thinking that if you're in a restaurant, you're safe because it's only transmitted through like actual spit or something. But being in a closed environment, like the COVID, I think I read that COVID can transfer within a 20-foot indoor distance from one person to another in under 30 seconds or something like that. Do you remember what it was?
I don't know the exact.
Anyway,
amount,
the point
though.
the
I don't
the
actually
point
know what-
isn't the actual specifics, but that people think that there is a very specific way that it gets transferred, which is like you have to spit on someone's face. That's not entirely true. Like, it can be through air conditioning systems, it can be within the same house but on different sides of it, it can be from eating, it can be from talking and laughing. When you're communicating with people, when you're breathing around them, you're doing what it takes to spread COVID. Like, that's just it. They don't know about they don't know about false positives and false negatives on COVID testing. A lot of people don't know about the heart failures and the long hauler effects. Like,
The weird
there's
thing
a
about some of the-
lot of stuff on COVID that like is not really touching the public just because it's far removed from it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's just most people aren't taking the time to learn all that information because I wouldn't either. I only know it because I've been hearing it around me all the time.
And I think there's also a
the
lot
main
of-
thing is just like your mom's main thing is like if you wear a mask, it's okay. That's pretty much it. That's like her main thing the whole time. Mask works.
Yeah.
Wear a mask, basically.
That's almost entire. You can pretty much do anything in a good mask. I mean, depending on the level of mask that you're wearing.
I mean, it
But-
changes a little bit, but like her main thing has just been like if everybody would just have a mask on their face 24/7, like if they're ever around
She's
each other,
absolutely
everything's
right.
fine.
Yeah, that is.
Is no problem if everyone's wearing a mask.
If you're wearing a good mask though, like there will still be like.
But
you
she's
can
even
still-
said even if everybody's we're around people all the time and nobody's wearing like N95s like we are, but it's
Well, yeah, because
but-
we know a medical
but they're
professional. No one
still
can have N95s.
doing
It's not
all
possible
right.
to buy those right now.
yeah.
But I think that and I think a lot of really fair misconceptions about COVID exist because they're fair things to hear about and not understand fully, like the idea that someone could die of a heart attack, but then they say it's from COVID. That's a really fair thing to be critical of because it does happen where people who like a lot of times people are dying of heart attacks and they're like, why did they list it as COVID? And there's so many millions of medical reasons, including how deaths are filed it comes down to, like, it's very complicated. It works in a lot of different ways, and so there's a lot of confusions just on things that are inherently confusing unless you know, like, what's going on behind the scenes of doctors and insurance companies. Like, it's just a lot. So I don't fault, like, a lot of people, but if you just cannot wear a mask, that is your fault, and you should just not be that way. The end.
Yep.
Anyway, that was to answer Grace's question. Or me, Ursa. No, Grace. It was Grace.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys watch The Death of 2020? Is that the Netflix thing? My mom was watching that. I think it was...
Oh, is that the weird, like, mock documentary thing?
I don't know. There is a mock documentary on Netflix of 2020, and it was pretty funny from what we saw.
Everybody saw Ganon because he was illegally on the table.
Ganon!
Where do you go?
He's gone now. He graced him with his presence and then left. As he should.
Well... What else?
I was thinking, I had something
what's
on
some
my
good
mind.
stuff?
I had something on my mind before you got all angry at Petite. What was it? What was I thinking of?
I don't know.
Oh, we watched Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, well we watched half of Wonder Woman.
We watched the new Wonder Woman because it's out.
That was. I'd heard it wasn't good, but we just put it on because we just wanted something in the background.
Come here, over here.
And it was highly entertaining.
If you can make it, if you can make it.
Not,
Oh god. Okay, I have the dog.
But yeah, no, we watched like the first half of Wonder Woman.
It was awful, dude.
So
Oh my
bad.
god, terrible movie. The first one was bad, but this one was like...
The first, so we went and saw the first one. The first one was a pretty solid C as far as all movies went. And at the time, it was for me it was the best DC movie that had come out. I've never been a huge fan of DC characters. The movies aren't made nearly as well as like the Marvel ones are, and it has nothing to do with the source material. It's just the team behind the filmmaking is not as good. Wonder Woman was okay, but it felt like a first draft. I think is what we kind of talked about. And we started watching this new one, and it's so. It was just what I'm trying to think of like a summary for it. I thought I had like
a good explanation.
like a generic explanation for it, but it was I really was like I was trying not to criticize it just for the sake of criticizing it and trying to just like see it as objectively as possible. But everything they did was just so bizarre and baffling. Oh, that was my main criticism of the new one was that it. And I think this is a problem with a lot of DC movies. It feels like none of the departments in the filmmaking crew ever talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's called 1984, but, like, nothing about it feels 80s except for a few moments where they just inject as much 80s as possible. It felt like they filmed the whole movie and then decided to make it 80s and then, like, reshot some scenes and, like, put, like, 80s titles over it, but, like, nothing... It clearly was in response to Thor Ragnarok, is my guess, because the trailer came out the year after that movie came out.
So here's, I always feel we're talking, so if you want to like movies, I think that's okay.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
if you liked it, that's fantastic, but these are our problems.
I think that's fine. And we also really like to like movies. So when we don't like movies, it's usually because they did something like inherently like offensive to our senses.
I'm always really self-conscious about criticizing movies because I actually really hate channels like CinemaSins or ones where they just make their entire career off of just like nitpicking everything. Yeah. Because it's I like so many schlocky movies that I know are even ones that I know are bad. I still like them a lot most of the time. Yeah. Wonder Woman was bad, but that has nothing. I guess that's what it is. Like, quality of movie and my enjoyment of the movie are rarely actually related. Right. So Wonder Woman, I didn't like, and it was bad. But those are two kind of different things.
So when we went to go see Wonder Woman, I think with Justine and Rachel, and we saw Wonder Woman, and I was completely blown away the whole time because I've never seen a female superhero ever in her own movie.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that was the first.
Star.
That was literally the first one in her own movie so far, right? Like that had been because Captain Marvel hadn't come out yet.
No, so I went.
That's the only other one.
I went to go see it, and I was so stoked. I paid attention to nothing except that I was watching a female superhero, and that
which is totally fair.
The visuals, which were very Zack Snyder-esque, which I've always really liked the sort of Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman, and also Zack Snyder movies.
I'm not a huge fan of Zack Snyder's visuals.
They have this really bloomy video game kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
That I've always really liked, which is like cheesy, but it's very like aesthetic specific. So it's not for everyone.
It's like gritty, colorful.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to describe.
Because he's Watchmen in 300 also, right?
It's mostly like this sort of dreamy bloom effect that video games have, just because their graphics can't handle all the details.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we went out to Chili's to go talk about it because we do superheroes and then chicken, and Rachel and I were like, "That was a good movie," and then Ian and Kyle are just sort of looking at each other like, and I'm like, "What happened?"
And I try to stay really conscious of this too now, because I don't want to let the fact that like it's not a relatable white man like throw me off or something. So like I try to be really open-minded about the criticisms.
Yeah, well, and you guys were nice to me, because I was like, I was about to throw hands, and they were like, the writing was absolutely some of the worst. Like the editing, the writing, the actual dialogue.
Did we think it was that bad at the time?
Oh yeah, you guys were absolutely like you had come right out of the movie, and I think so. You
I must
were
remember
stoked
it better
to see it,
than I.
And I think Ian was probably really stoked to see it. We were all stoked to see a main female superhero, so we had our our hopes
new.
were really high. And then we get into Chili's, and you guys are basically just like, the actual dialogue of the movie made it so like 10 minutes in, you guys both checked out. And I've rewatched some scenes, and you're absolutely right. It's a bad movie. And I was so excited to see it. It did all those like cool flashy things that are like, this is a good movie, and I'm like, and then I watched it again, and it wasn't, I mean, it was y'all, but I think I would have figured it out at some point that like the actual pacing, editing, and dialogue of the original Wonder Woman movie are like so unworthy of what could have happened compared to every other not even just compared to every other, the dialogue in the movie reminded me of Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, it was horrible. And then we watched this new one.
That's rough.
We watched the new Wonder Woman, and it was half as good as the first one.
It's so confusing. The writing room must have taken a day.
Yeah.
Like, I've listened to the Story Break podcast with like Freddie Wong and the other Rocket Jump people, where they just like throw a story together in an hour for a podcast episode, and they come up with better stuff than what that movie was in its final draft. It was so weird. It wasn't even like educationally bad. It was just baffling.
Are you talking about the old one or the new one?
The new one.
The new one was weird. Like, it had an opening shot of like.
I got the intent of the first one.
Yeah.
The first one made sense, and I could probably like I feel like the first one was redeemable with some edits.
Yeah.
This one I just don't know what to do with.
Yeah. This one was wild. So we were like 30 or 40 minutes into the movie. They have 3 like characters that are doing completely different things from each other. So you think like the plot's gonna kind of come together.
Right, yeah.
But 40 minutes into this 2.5-hour movie, and absolutely nothing has happened. They have like Wonder Woman, who's done nothing except like beat up a rapist once, potentially a rapist, and like fling a girl across the mall. Then you've got Kristen Wiig, who's only wore completely incorrect outfits for the decade of the 80s, who's done absolutely nothing the entire movie. And then you have Mexican Trump, who is literally just like
who's
played by
Oberyn Martell.
Who's played by Pedro Pascal.
Right,
Who's a great actor. Who's also doing nothing. It's just 30 minutes of absolutely nothing happening, and I'm like, where's the storyline going?
There's this whole opening scene that will never leave my memory of Wonder Woman like stopping some people robbing a mall, and it's so bizarre. It's like the wire work in it is very actually, that's not the opening scene. It starts with like 15 minutes of like an Olympic game, and then I forgot that happened, and then it's her in the mall in the 1980s, and it's like all the no one took physics into consideration in the fight scenes of this. Like, I at least expect the visuals and the effects to be cool, but it's all the movement is so weird, and all the fighting is very strangely choreographed, and there's this whole bit where like she saves a child and then beats people up and then turns back to the child, and it cuts back and forth between them like 10 times
for like 40
with them
minutes.
Like winking and nodding at each other, and then Wonder Woman does like a shh, like, don't tell anyone I was here, the golden-clad Amazon woman jumping around the open area of this mall seen by 800 people. It's so strange.
It was such a weird scene. I would say that this movie is definitely, like, it's bad, but on top of it being bad, it's just really weird.
It's so weird.
I don't know what it was doing or what it was... No,
The
the weaking
plot
scene...
is
It was
that-
like a 10-minute weaking scene of just, like, her being like... And then it, like, slow pans to the girl, and she's like... And then it slow pans back to her, and she's like... And then it slow pans back to the girl, and the girl's like, and then it slow pans back to Diane, and she's like, shh. And then
Facial acting was so weird.
It was so strange.
But the rough plot of the movie is that there's a crystal that looks like a video game crystal sprite, not any actual rock in real life, that you can just wish on like a genie lamp, and then it will grant you one wish. And everybody who touches it knows this somehow, and they all make different wishes. And the villain, Mexican Trump, as Matt called him,
Yeah, that's where I got it.
Wishes to be the crystal. And I don't know why. It never explains why he does that.
I didn't finish the movie.
We didn't actually finish, but I don't think it's going to explain his reasoning. He has one wish, and he could basically wish for 1,000 wishes. He basically does, but instead, he wishes to be the crystal. That is his word.
All right. We'll stop just explaining the movie detail by detail, but we'll go through some of the questions.
Okay.
Life says, didn't Catwoman count as a female superhero? No.
I actually didn't. Did they make a Catwoman?
Wasn't that
movie?
Halle Berry? Was that the Halle Berry one?
Is that the one where like the costume looks like weird and like stitched together out of like farmer's twine or something? Where it's like...
I don't count Catwoman because every time I've ever seen her depicted, other than Anne Hathaway's, and maybe even still Anne Hathaway's, that's just like a solid like. What are those?
Catwoman just kind of
what are those
looks
suits
like
called?
Like
the
a
weird,
bondage
the weird,
thing.
Yeah, the weird bondage sex
bit.
latex suits.
Yeah.
Gimp suits, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I can't stand. Every time I see Catwoman, I'm like, okay, did you have your fun? Did you have your fun? Because now I have to sit here and watch it. I have to sit here and watch it. I'm so glad you got your kicks. Can we please do something else?
That actually reminds me
Even
again
the
that
whole movie.
I'm actually really interested in the Robert Pattinson Batman movie that's coming out. Because they showed a Catwoman clip in that, and she actually just looked like a burglar. Like she doesn't. I don't think there was any cat indication at all, which looked great.
Xerox Hero says, so like Tim Burton, and I think they were asking about my description of Zack Snyder films, and no, I hate Tim Burton.
I don't know. That's a bit late. They might be talking about the Catwoman thing. I don't know if that was that a Tim Burton thing? Because Catwoman's in Tim Burton movies also.
She is?
Yeah, because he had 3 Batman movies that he made, and she's
Oh, you're
definitely
right.
in at least one of them.
Oh, I forgot Tim Burton does not animated stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't watch Tim Burton pretty much anything.
I watched the first Tim Burton Batman, and it was that. It was a Tim Burton Batman movie. It was everything you expect
She
that
doesn't
to
get
be.
to count. I don't count it. I doubt that it requires. I doubt it meets my specific standards for being a good. Anyway. A lot of people actually really like the Wonder Woman movie, like the first one. We know that we're kind of.
That's
in our own
fine.
boat on that.
I don't like. Again, in my memory, Wonder Woman was a pretty solid just C. I don't remember. I just remember I remember kind of thinking this movie needed to exist, and it's good that it did. It could have been better, but it probably was unreasonable to expect it to be amazing.
Bill says, I often find that many times lately where women are the main characters, the writing feels like someone went, a woman lead will make up for good writing, scripting, story. And I think that's very true.
Yeah, I
think they're
agree
like,
with that.
look, we handed you the important part.
Oh,
so...
that was another thing too. Is that you mentioned you talked about how every single man that showed up in the movie was a literal monster.
Oh my god, it was so awful.
And it was
to watch.
it felt like it was this is feminism written by men who think they know what it is, kind of. Because it's because actual women are no, we want more women, not worse men. But that's all the movie was. It was still 2 women, just all the men were terrible.
That's true. There were 2 women in the whole freaking movie. And there were 80 men, but they were all rapists, assaulters, Mexican Trump, everyone was a bad guy. We didn't even get to the Palestinian plotline. We didn't even get there.
Oh,
I
right.
don't think
What
it would have
was
been
happening
good.
there?
Who knows?
I don't know what was going on there.
Anyway, no, that's not what women are asking for. Let's see. Hang on, I gotta go all the way back. I saw Ricky's thing. We'll have to talk about that.
I'll probably said hot take. Gal Gadot's accent is dumb.
Is it real?
I don't
Is it a
know
real
what
accent?
accent.
Is she just trying to sound
I don't think it's her actual accent. I'm
Well,
pretty sure
she's
she puts it on.
She's from Israel, right?
I don't know where the actor is from.
I think she has an accent.
The character is supposed to be like kind of Grecian, right? Isn't she fighting the old Greek gods. Isn't that the idea?
I don't know. Based on her, so it's hard because based on her original drawing, I would assess where she could be from, but her original drawing is just like a white chick.
Right, yeah.
So, I don't know. Ricky says, you didn't finish, you are CinemaSins now. We literally couldn't finish.
No.
It was not gonna, we don't have to. You can't make me do that. What other movie did we watch? Oh, Kingsman 2. We walked out of the theater on that one, right?
Yes. I did not finish Kingsman 2. Kingsman 2 was one of the only. I think that's the only movie I've ever paid for and not finished in the theater.
There was one other movie I walked out on. I cannot remember. I think
Kingsman 2 was just bad.
We can't even talk about how bad it is because it's R-rated bad. It's not even okay to talk about.
It was just Kingsman 2 was a 13-year-old left a script on a table and somebody found it and was like, "Looks like it's done. Let's get started."
Phoenix Rising says, "Ismail cut to Are We the Baddies meme." Literally every.
But that's what the movie was. Yeah, it was so weird.
Awful. I'm just one. Even they, I don't know if anybody's planning on watching this, but it's not really a spoiler. It happens in the first 10 minutes. But they bring back her dead boyfriend from the first movie.
Right. In a way that's also never explained.
In a way that's totally weird and unexplained. And even that seems really sinister and weird.
Yeah.
Literally every single man in this movie was a problem.
No, it definitely felt like it was we made this for women, and then women are like, you don't know what we want.
There's a scene. This
isn't what we wanted.
There's a scene where Kristen Wiig comes out of the building, and she's going for a jog or something. And there are 5 men just chilling in an alleyway. And I guess the 80s were tough times or whatever, but 5 men in the alleyway. They all catcall her and say something really degrading and weird. And it's it felt so freaking weird and forced. She steps out and some guy's like, "Hey baby," and then 3 other guys are looking good, and then the rapist from before is back in the same alley right outside her building, and I'm just and then she beats the shit out of him, but not in an okay fun way. She curb stomps his face, and I'm
I didn't see that part. I was
no,
put out of the room for a second.
I was what is going on? This isn't what women wanted. It's just not it. That's just not. But on a more interesting note, there is something that we can talk about, just overarching women main characters in movies that we talked about with our friends last night. But an overarching theme for female superheroes, and we want your opinion, is that they all start off as superhuman kids. Every single one of them.
Yeah, Allison was there's this weird trend where it's every time there's a superpowered female, or not every time, but often enough that it's a pattern. If there's a superpowered female, the story tends to start with them being an OP child, they're a kid with a naturally gifted kid. And we don't have this isn't a positive or negative thing. It was just you just noticed that it was a pattern. And I was oh yeah, Wonder Woman's doing it. Captain Marvel did kind of the same thing, where it's she was just naturally gifted as a kid. John mentioned that the new Mulan movie does the same thing, where she's just a naturally gifted warrior child. Who else? I think, didn't Ricky point somebody out also? Korra. He mentioned Korra, which is kind of the same thing. It's if there's
Captain Marvel,
if there's
Korra.
modern strong female character has this weird thing where it's they started out awesome, basically.
Had to.
But then but that doesn't that's not as consistent with the male characters, where usually there's an event that they have to overcome, and that makes them they are.
That does tend to happen for men, but also men don't even have to go to being a 7-year-old, but all of the women do. All of the women have to start off overcoming something at the age of 5, and the overcoming something is that they are a badass and people around them don't believe them.
Which says women being weak as children, sexist, which is I kind of feel it's an overcorrection maybe. That's sort of what it feels like.
Right, I can't tell if it's a bad thing or if it's a good thing. It's just
Patient
a really weird thing.
Black Widow, which we also mentioned, but we haven't seen her movie yet, so I don't know if they get into, because she was the little bit we've seen of Black Widow, she was just sort of abducted and trained as a spy, which isn't exactly the same thing.
Right.
I don't think she was just naturally better than everybody else.
I will bet money that it will continue with Black Widow. 100%, I'm willing to put very little money. I'm 100% willing to bet a very small amount of money that Black Widow will be roughly the same kind of thing all over again. She's probably picked and chosen because she's super special for some reason, because they're all super special.
Xavier brought up Jessica Jones. That one, I think she actually doesn't fit that. She started as a
Yeah.
fairly normal person that gets like experimented on or something, and
I
then
don't know
becomes
her
that as a...
backstory. Well, yeah,
I
Jessica
remember
Jones is
from the-
well, so one, Jessica Jones. Okay, so she does have her own show, so I'll actually take that criticism back. But yeah, I agree that that's probably a good example of that not happening, because we don't have to see Jessica Jones as like a 6-year-old. We always have to see them as like a small child being like berated by men. Except for, I guess Wonder Woman isn't. She's just surrounded
No,
by...
I mean, they don't have to be...
Why isn't
like,
Wonder Woman gay? I will never be... I'm so upset about this. Wonder Woman should just be a great LGBTQ character. It's all there. But then they gave her Chris Pine, like a whiny little, like, war hero, and I'm like, no! She is surrounded by some of the most gorgeous Amazonian women in the world.
So she literally only grew up... I mean, not that like would determine your sexuality, but, like... It would be more convenient.
Like, if you were only surrounded by one gender your entire life. But then, no, it's gotta be a derpy, like, human boy. Couldn't it have just been, like, a quirky human girl? No. Wonder Woman has to be straight. This kills me on the inside. She could have been a great character for so many reasons.
This just supports my opinion that the best version of Wonder Woman is She-Ra.
Yes! The best female superhero is She-Ra in the modern retelling. Let's see, what are people saying? I asked, so I want their opinion. Ricky says, men want to see characters come into their own. I think that's probably in regards to the other male superheroes that get to do that.
But women/feminists want strong women, therefore we can't ever show them as being weak. That's just not true. I'm a male feminist, and I want women characters who are good, well-written characters who overcome challenges.
Yeah. I like...
Guys...
Phoenix Rising
Calm
says,
down.
remember kids, if you're born a woman, you better be amazing or prepared to be disappointing to literally everyone, unless you're a man, in which case you're good. I think that's pretty well said, actually.
Yeah. I think to me it just feels like an overcorrection. Because the same thing. Well, the reason, if you could have seen the same thing happen with black and gay people, both have a very similar thing in media, which is that after being portrayed as sort of, the background quirk goofball character for a little while, there was a period where, like, I guess PC culture kind of took over and people overcorrected, and there's this weird trope from like a couple decades of like the magical black man, where like the black character is like this all-knowing, wise, gives all the good advice to the main character, and then eventually they did the same thing with gay people, and like a good example is like Wallace from Scott Pilgrim, or like there's like the weirdly perfect version of that character because it feels like an overcorrection.
It's the token version, right? That's the
yeah,
term that's
kind
used.
of. Well, but like before that, there was like they were. They moved from being belittled to being like perfect, basically, and then eventually they kind of settle out, because now I would say like that we have lots of examples of well balanced, complex black and gay characters and different people, but weirdly women are sort of still catching up, I think, in the same arena in a lot of cases.
True. I think that's true.
I think that's all it is. I think like feminism is now, prolific enough that like media is acknowledging it, but we're still in the overcorrection phase where
I think people
they're
are
like
just
making them too
really
perfect.
weird. Like, they just dance around women's issues for some reasons. Like, it seems like everyone on Black Panther knew what the fuck they were doing, and then we get Wonder Woman, and people are like, "What is a woman? What would a woman want? What woman do?
What woman do?"
How woman
Xavier
brain?
says, "Please talk to DFTBA and Hank about getting Why Isn't Wonder Woman Gay on a shirt." That seems like a Hank Green shirt right there, actually.
Doesn't it though? I just, it's very weird. Like, I do think you have a good point. I think minorities all have different struggles in Hollywood for sure. But women's does seem to be just like, why doesn't anyone just talk to a woman? Like, just find one and just ask, like, hey. Well, it's hard though, because we've talked about the sort of internal like misogyny that happens when making movies, which is that women make bad movies about women because they've also been surrounded by like a completely unfair representation of what women are like.
It's really hard to break out of stuff that you've grown up see. So like even when I'm trying to write narrative stuff right now, even just for the channel, and like it's really hard to like remind yourself constantly like, oh wait, like don't write down what you've seen on television. Try to write down, like, it's hard to switch over from rewriting what you've seen on TV to writing real life.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it just comes more naturally to rewrite the stuff that you've already watched because it's simplified. It sticks in your brain easier,
I love. Grace says, "What about Katniss?" Sort of in her own she says Katniss.
Oh, I actually think
and I think
she's
Katniss is a
pretty
great
fantastic
female
character.
Yeah.
After I just recently watched all those movies, I think she's actually great.
I think Katniss is a fantastic female character.
She feels very real to me.
So Katniss doesn't have girl problems. And yeah, that makes sense. Nothing about being a girl is relevant to being alive in Katniss's world.
Right.
She's just a...
Yeah.
But the thing that's important to remember about the Hunger Games and Katniss being the main character is if you take Katniss out of that and replace her with a man, you know they would have wrote the movie differently. Which means that the way they wrote Katniss was specific to... Well, so it
Sure,
came
it
from
does
the
feel
books.
like it would be a little bit different.
The books was written by a really great storyteller, who I think is also female. I don't remember if the writer of Hunger Games is.
I'm pretty sure it's a woman, but I don't. Maybe I just made that up.
I think Katniss is a great example. But I was gonna say, so I shared something on Twitter the other day that I think you should go watch, but I think it kind of upset people. Which is it's a dialogue for a show called The Wilds. It's a little like clip, and it's these two girls are on a plane. And it's the weirdest, most forced, strange interaction I've seen between two women that I'm just like, who thinks we talk to each other like this? But it's this one girl, one girl like leaves over, she's like smacking her gum, and she's like, I have a question about your shirt. And this other girl who's putting on lip gloss is like, well, I have a question about your pants. And I'm like, who's speaking to each other like this? And the girl who's smacking her gum,
where's this aggression coming from?
She's like, I just don't understand why it exists about your shirt. And then the other girl says something, and she was like, your shirt literally tells girls to leave you alone. It says, bye girl, bye on her shirt. And the girl with lip gloss, who's like, I'm making all those weird lip smacking noises. She's like, it's funny. It's a joke. I just think it's great. And then they like have a back and forth or whatever. And then some girl's like, it's the girl with the shirt and the lip gloss is like, girls like you are the reason why girls don't support each other, or something. I don't know. Some bullshit. And I'm like, what is happening? No, I've never talked to a woman like this.
This is very strange.
It was anyway. Go look at my Twitter and go watch it, and then come back and then tell me what the hell was happening, because no one I know has ever talked to each other like that. Well, to be fair, some people I know, I have had interactions similar to this, and my first thought was like, why did that go that way? What happened? Like, who trained you to respond that way? So weird. It's so weird. Anyway.
A couple questions, a couple of things that we brought up. Somebody brought up Toph as an example. I actually think Toph is... So it's the same pattern, but... So again, I don't have any actual like negative take on this pattern. It's just a pattern that I've noticed.
Yeah.
I don't specifically think it's negative yet. I haven't thought of a reason that it's bad. Other than it's just Toph is overvicious. Toph starts the show saying she's the most powerful Earthbender in the world and stays the most powerful Earthbender in the world for the entire show. So she definitely like is that, but her struggles don't have anything to do with her power either, I think is the important thing.
Right.
Like the struggles she overcomes as a character have nothing to do with her physical fighting capability.
Right.
So it's not really like... And
I didn't watch Korra, so for me, Toph is only that one character, and she stays 10.
Oh, that's true. I don't know what old Toph
really
is like either, yeah.
I do kind of know what old Toph is like, and she seems to be sort of just like a grumpy hermit bitch.
Sure.
Which, like, fine. But for throughout the show, like Avatar at least, it doesn't feel like the same trope because she stays the child. It's not a backstory.
That's true too. That's actually a good point.
It's her current story.
She
it's
is
not
the kid
backstory.
the whole time, right?
Right.
That's a good point.
She feels developed, I guess, like as a full character at that age. Like she goes through her development, and by the end of it, it's like, okay, we've watched her develop into the character that they wanted to make her. What?
Ricky said Magic the Gathering had great female characters with LGBT inclusion, and then China and Russia became big on Magic the Gathering, so they changed and ungayed characters to appeal to those markets. That sucks.
Wow. Wow. That sucks.
Osmo says new Ghostbusters movie. Didn't actually see that. Don't know. Don't know about that one at all. I know everybody complained about it, and they were probably wrong for doing so, for the reasons they complained about it, but I don't actually know if the movie was good or not.
I don't know. I didn't see the new Ghostbusters movie because I thought the first one was great.
Well, it kind of like the first, like the 80s one. Like
Yeah.
that, yeah. If I had to guess, the new Ghostbusters movie was bad and had nothing to do with the fact that they were women. Is almost definitely what the case was.
Well, I think it had everything to do with women, but not because they were women, but because people felt like it mattered that they needed to be women.
Maybe, yeah.
That's the difference. Is not because women existed, but because someone was like, this needs to be women. And I'm like, no. It doesn't. So that's how you don't fix the problem. You don't take a movie. You don't take Lord of the Rings and then make it all women. That's not how you fix.
Oh right, yeah.
The people telling you the problem are not asking you to remake movies with women. They're telling you to make new movies with real women, with good plots, about things that exist, because it's not hard. You don't have to think like deep in your freaking
Well, but see,
soul.
this answers the other problem, which is asking Hollywood to make new things rather than than guaranteed make money on things that already exist.
It's true.
Ricky said Katniss is perfect. I didn't actually get that vibe from the movie. I actually didn't feel
Katniss would have died like 8 billion times.
Katniss feels like... So somebody once pointed out that in Indiana Jones, if you removed Indiana Jones, everything in the movie happens exactly the same way. That he literally is just there to observe, and nothing he does has any impact on the movie.
Yeah.
Which... I think is true. I never had a problem with that fact. Like, hearing that didn't make me dislike the movie.
Yeah.
But I think Katniss has a weirdly similar thing, but better, which is that she's very along for the ride, but that's the point. Is that she's being used as a tool, and she makes, like, only a few very key decisions, and it feels really realistic that way.
That's how life works.
Because in real life, it's like you are, like, there's so many other... forces, there's so many other people's opinions and actions like driving things around her that she just kind of stays alive, and then in those brief windows where she's allowed to make a decision, she makes the best one that she can. And to me, that's more of the story
like, half
about
the time.
it.
Actually, I think the thing about Katniss is, so Katniss is good at one thing. She can shoot like no one's fucking business, but for whatever reason, the movie has like the skills that people are required are just on steroids. That's just a part of the world. Like there's like the
whatever
super
you're good
geniuses
at,
who are super geniuses,
right.
And she's good with a bow and arrow, so she's like the best. So like that's
everybody has a D&D stat of 20 in that one thing.
But it's the whole world. It's every single character has something like that.
PETA has 20 in disguise for he can just become a rock apparently.
PETA is amazing. But my point is like Katniss actually would have died. Like watching the show every single time, I'm like, so she's dumb. That's kind of her thing. Is she's like she's a reactionary, emotional character who makes like 50 mistakes, and then people have to fucking scramble
actually.
to
That's
fix
really
them.
what it is. Like she's not perfect. She's just rescued by everybody all the time because they've decided she's the most important person in the world.
Go watch the Hunger Games again, dude. Those movies are so good. I could not believe that. They were really, really good.
Ensemble Pool says, I've really been impressed with She-Ra and the Princess of Power lately. It's so refreshing to see an entire cast of female characters, and I realized how much I needed it until I saw it.
Yes!
I'm 100% on the same page as you there. It's such a good show.
Also, hey.
And yeah, it's so really, it's very refreshing watching it and just being like, this just works and it's fine. Like, it's not making a statement that it's a cast full of females. It just is... And it's good.
That's how women talk to each other.
Oh,
they
also,
talk to each other. And, like, if you want to know how women talk to each other, go watch She-Ra.
Legitimately, though, like, if you're a writer and you want to be like, how do I write good female characters? Just watch that show. It is, I think, probably the best example. Like, I would hand that out as, if I were teaching writing, that would be my, like, sample of, like, here's how to write women. Just look at this show, see how they interact with each other, see how not important it is that they're women interacting with each other, and just copy that.
Yeah. Alex Kiefer says Rey from Star Wars. But I don't know.
I don't really know either. Honestly, I haven't formulated a lot of opinions on her because she's part of the new Star Wars movies, and I just haven't really formulated a lot of opinions on the new Star Wars movies.
She was just sort of good, right? That was kind of her thing. She was just good with it.
I don't know. In my head, she's kind of a cardboard cutout, but so are a lot of people in there. I don't really have much of...
I don't remember. I watched the first movie and the second movie and the third movie. I don't remember
We
Rey.
haven't seen the third one.
Rey is the least remarkable thing about the Star Wars.
Like, Rey's not super interesting, but neither, like...
But isn't that kind
they
of
all
Star
have
Wars
the potential to be interesting. Yes.
I really like the one Asian girl that they just wrote out of the series because a bunch of men were fucking mad about her existence.
She didn't feel like she should have been there, like, she felt like...
I wasn't mad about that.
No, I wasn't mad about it. I was just like, you don't feel like you belong here. Like, in a good way, you're not supposed to be here.
I also really like Finn. I don't know if I was supposed to really like Finn. Again, I only watched the first two.
Finn, again, was like, could have been really cool, but then it just felt like they didn't know what to do with him. I don't know. Most of the new Star Wars movies...
I don't know where it ended, so I have no idea.
The female characterization in the new Star Wars movies was not my issue with the new Star Wars movies, I guess. Like, she was fine.
I'm mad that, I'm mad that Carrie Fisher existed in her personality and they still wrote her into Leia as Leia. Like, how are you not inspired by Carrie Fisher's just
like
having
just make Leia have gone off the walls by the end of her life or whatever?
No, not even. Just when they met her, they should have been like,
just when she was
you
no, that wasn't gonna happen.
I know. Still sad.
All right, I scrolled back down. We got back up with the chat.
All right, good. We're all.
So I might have missed a few things.
It's been a good conversation
Apologies.
between chat and us.
It has. It's been good talking.
As
to
much
you
as
guys
it can
today.
be when we dominate 80% of the conversation.
Right.
95%
That's
of the conversation.
That's the streaming issue.
Right. But yeah, I don't know anything about Star Wars. People try to use that. People have forever been trying to use Star Wars as like a feminist version of female representation in movies, and I've never once understood what the hell they were talking about.
I wouldn't say it's the great example of that. The originals are definitely not, and the new ones, it just feels like there's too much going on to really pay attention to that. I mean, they're female characters. They did better. Like, I appreciate that when they came into the new Star Wars movie, they were like, let's make the main two characters a woman and a black guy, because those two things just don't exist in our universe yet.
True.
Like, that was a good decision. And I think the characters were fine, but again, I just didn't pay that much attention to it, honestly. I just don't feel like I can have, like, an educated opinion because I haven't put one together yet.
I've always found that, like, the biggest flaw of Star Wars was that it was just fucking boring, so I don't know how you guys are doing it, honestly.
Shit.
Sorry.
That said, I'm still really excited to watch The Mandalorian Season 2, and I know I'm starting that soon, because the first season was great.
The old ones are boring, and the new ones are boring.
I'm excited for the new potential of Star Wars being episodic. I think that's actually a great idea. They're doing this one, and then they've got the Obi-Wan show coming out, and supposedly Clone Wars was also great, and I didn't actually ever watch that, but it was supposed to be like the best Star Wars thing so far. So I'm really curious to see how that goes.
He's so unhappy. As soon as I came to hug him, he was like, he just like stiffens and is like, no, please don't. But yeah, no, I need to think about the women representation as just superhuman children first with nothing to overcome and see if it's bad. It's hard to tell.
My current position on it is like, don't think it's a problem, think it's a natural step towards things being better, so probably ultimately good.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone.
Yeah, it's an interesting trend. Osmium O says Ahsoka in the Clone Wars was cool. I've heard that. I've heard she was great. Probably would be worth watching just for that.
Isn't the Clone Wars a movie? No, it's the series.
It's the series, the animated series.
Yeah,
There's I think the actual best female Star Wars character is in that, and supposedly she's also getting a live action show.
Isn't she the blue one?
No, she's like orange or something.
But she has the things.
She does have the things.
That's cool.
The head things.
I like the head things.
She isn't the. There was an Anthony Burch tweet that was like, Ashoka is not a Twi'lek, and I'm ashamed that I know this, or something.
I don't know what this means.
She's not the blue people; it's a different race. But like, knowing that means you're a giant nerd. Yay! I was so into, like, there was a period in my life where I was very, very into the Star Wars, like, universe. Like, I went on to, like, I knew all the different species and stuff for a while.
That's cute. Thomas was like that too, actually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of boys I knew were like that. I just couldn't stand people who were really into the Power Rangers universe. That was like a thing.
Weirdly, I did not know those people. What were those people like?
They were like my cousin. I don't know, we were all 7, so it didn't matter. I mean, they knew as much as they could at 7, but like, we had to put on a Power Rangers movie every time I saw them. They were like, oh, this is the backstory, and I'm like...
Is that like a kung fu movie fan? Like mixed with like an anime fan? Like what
I was also 7, I just know that they knew too much about the Power Rangers.
That's definitely a weird thing to know a lot about. I don't think none of my friends knew a lot about Power Rangers. That may have been a little bit before my time.
Suki's getting her own book. Her own book.
Oh, really?
I think it's still a comic book, but she's getting her own book about her story. It's all about Suki.
That's cool.
I'm so excited.
I have not finished reading the latest Kyoshi book, and I really want, and I should. It's just been sitting on my nightstand.
Suki's one of the greatest female characters of all time, and you'll never change my mind, probably.
Yeah?
Yeah. What do you mean, yeah?
I just have never heard you express that opinion before.
That's bullshit.
Have you said that before?
Probably not. But I've obviously meant it so strongly that you should have telepathically picked up on my thoughts on this. Suki is seriously such a good female character. She's such a good character. She's a great everything. Suki is perfect. They nailed that. Good job, Avatar. That's all I have to say.
Alright, we got about 4 minutes left, so if anybody wants to start submitting some push the buttons.
Or just other movie pins. Sir!
Alright, Kat, you need to clear out.
He really just wants his face to be next to your face, but not touching, and no one can touch the cat. Fuck you, Allison. What's wrong with Power Rangers? Power Rangers sucked! They sucked!
I have no opinion on Power Rangers.
Power Rangers sucked.
That's fine. They can be fine. I have no issue with Power Rangers.
Alfredo says she's perfect, then she's a Mary Sue. No, No, the other perfect. The perfect because
The
she's
perfect,
not a
the
Mary
perfect
Sue.
that means she's imperfect.
Right, yes, the perfect. She's a perfect character, not a perfect human. That's what I meant to say.
Weird, important distinction, actually.
It is. People who like Suki are safe people. I feel safe in a room with you.
Ricky asked thoughts on Faye from Cowboy Bebop. We actually have not watched enough of that. We've only seen the first episode.
I'm gonna watch it. I've decided to power through it. I think we should try it.
Yeah, Allison's decided she's interested in trying more anime, so she's gonna
Bro, I
be
watched
watching more.
I watched the first like 10 minutes of 3 animes, and I was like, this is gonna be hard. I tried Steins Gate. That was rough and boring. Again, I watched like 5 minutes of the first episode, and then I tried Black Clover. That was boring.
Sir.
What else did I watch? I don't know. I tried like 3
Sir.
anime beginnings, and I was like, ugh.
We are
Who
live.
likes this? Let him sniff your face constantly. How hard is that? But no, I haven't even met Faye on Cowboy Bebop. I didn't get that far.
Yeah. I watched the first one a long time ago, the first episode, and didn't quite get into that, but I've always had trouble getting anime. I think we talked about this before.
We like Death Note, alright. I don't think there's a single woman in Death Note so far, though. The Detector's
No, yeah,
wife?
I don't think that's actually true.
The Detector.
Phoenix Rising gave us a push the button. He said, you could remake any movie you want, but you have to appease Hollywood with bad tropes. On the plus side, you could probably make a good female character.
Yeah, I would totally do this.
Yeah.
I can make this work.
I would take that challenge.
Yeah, it would be a great challenge.
I would be happy to give that a shot.
Someone says watch JoJo. I saw a TikTok that was like, what it says about you if you watch these characters, or if you watch these animes, and it got to JoJo, and it was like, you're either like, what was it? It was something like you either fetishize gay people or you are homophobic. One or the other. Only that. That's why.
I don't know what that means.
If
But
JoJo is your favorite anime, you're one of those two. It's one of those like it's supposed to be like inflammatory. Like you
sure.
can only be this way if you like this anime a lot.
I don't know anything about JoJo except it looks super weird. JoJo looks like it would just like mess me up watching it.
I don't think JoJo would be interesting to me. I don't know what I'm supposed to like about
the
JoJo.
closest thing I've seen to it reminds me kind of Redline visually. I don't know if it's anything like Redline, but it reminds me of the same sort of like.
The showrunner of She-Ra wrote a comic called Lumberjanes with great representation that's being turned into an animated show on HBO Max.
I knew this actually. I saw she posted this on her Twitter. I follow her because she's great. But yeah, I saw that she had made a comic
When
at
were
one
you
point.
gonna tell me?
I don't know. I forgot. I probably saw it really late at night before falling asleep.
You can't keep secrets in this marriage.
I'm sorry.
No secrets.
I'm sorry.
Wow. It's one of the most hurtful things you've ever done to me, I think.
Mimo says, push the button, you get what? No!
Cat!
Menu, go away.
I wish
It
you
says,
guys could see this cat. He's doing the whole, like...
You get well-developed characters for everyone, for every piece of culture, but they all have the room-level dialogue.
Yes!
Yeah, actually, yeah. I've seen some stuff with really crappy dialogue that I still... Actually, a great example of this is, like, I think kids' shows don't get enough credit for being some of the best pieces of writing out there sometimes. Because they're incredibly simple, but because they're so simple, like, they have to communicate ideas very clearly and concisely. And I think dramatic shows for adults lose a lot of, like, core... like principles that like kids show writing does really, really well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you are really onto something there, actually.
I think it's good building blocks. Like I think if you're gonna like if you started writing things for kids first and then like stepped up from there, I think that'd probably be a really good way to develop like good writing habits.
I don't think dialogue is the main tool for developing good characters.
It really isn't. I think dialogue is used as a fallback a lot because you can go to things like Mad Max Fury Road has almost no dialogue in it. Very simple story, but amazing storytelling. Like super simple story with no dialogue, told better than a lot like most other stories I've seen.
Hard to argue with that. Well, that's what I'm gonna say. Like dialogue can actually be the downfall of a relatively good character because they just say things that are unnatural or weird or like the spoon feeding stuff. Like yes, I picked up on that. Thank you for telling me again and again and again. Also, a problem with the new Wonder Woman and the old Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, I think that was a good push, but I have to think about that a little bit.
All right.
Someone says a rough opinion. The first episode of Cowboy Bebop is pretty boring compared to the. Yeah, so I watched the first episode.
We should jump into episode 2 because I've watched the first episode twice already.
Yeah, and I asked somebody if there was a place I could start at in the show that like skipped the boring parts, and they all said it was like a slow burn. So not really. So rip. But
Xavier again says, seriously, why isn't Wonder Woman gay on a shirt? I'll bring this up again later because it is excellent and it will make Hank die laughing. I'll keep this in mind.
Redbubble will also make that shirt for you if you want it. But
that's true. I feel like we could just sell this as like a shirt through somewhere else probably if we wanted to. Just make it on like a...
Yeah, it's a great
a Teespring shirt or something.
I will literally stay up at night wondering why they didn't make Wonder Woman gay. What a fucking missed opportunity. Like...
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning, normal time, 9. It'll be our last show for the season. Maybe we'll do something different. Maybe we won't.
We'll party. I'm gonna bring you out of the grapes! Anyway.
We'll figure something out. Tomorrow morning, maybe we can have Thomas and Kate on tomorrow morning, because the week, that's the point, right?
Safe?
Well, I hope so, because we're doing our meal tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow or is that Saturday?
It's tomorrow. Or it's supposed to be tomorrow.
Isn't tomorrow the New Year's Eve?
No, today's New Year's Eve.
Oh.
Today's the last day of the year.
Bye, 2020.
Yep. We'll see you tomorrow for the first day of 2021 and the last episode of this season. So tune in. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.